Hello, welcome back. So today I'll be creating magical girl characters based on this color palette sheet that I found on Pinterest. This color palette is made by Purple Dragon 57 from Tumblr, so shout out to them for creating these really great color combos. But before we get started, I just want to give out a brief explanation on what I think magical girls are, or what even counts as a magical girl. Generically in media, magical girls are represented by characters like Sailor Moon, or by Star from Star vs. the Forces of Evil, or kind of the Winx fairies from Winx. But in my little universe, in my head, I imagine magical girl characters to be any girl, female character that have magic. So that's what we'll be going by, or at least girls that came from or are inspired by folklore. So that's what we'll go with. So without any further ado, let's get on with the video. I'm going to be starting off with the color palette Sunset, and it has a variation from rose pink to a lemon yellow. Now, when designing these characters, I wanted to take into consideration the title of their color scheme as well as part of the inspiration. And when I think of sunset, it's something that relaxes me, something that's quite soothing, and in my opinion, it's quite elegant. So I wanted to design a character that signifies that elegance of a sunset, which is why you would see lots of flowing shapes on this character. Just to add on that elegance part, what I think of when I think of the word elegance are ballerinas. So her pose kind of symbolizes what I would see when I see a ballerina dancing. Which is why she looks a bit dramatic, as I'm kind of drawing her in a mid-dance pose. At first I was going to give her a skirt, but I really wanted to keep her flowing shape, almost as if she's like a dancing flame. And to show that off a lot better, I decided to put trousers on her instead of the skirt. I kept the skirt element by giving her a bottom cape, which is what you could see there. Now, focusing on the palette itself, what I forgot to mention in the beginning is that I want to completely use the palette. I don't want to go off and use a different color scheme for their skin, for their hair. Everything that I would use would solely have to be from their palette that I've chosen. And looking at her specific palette, just at the orange to yellow variation, it reminds me of royalty because it looks like gold. Hence why I gave her a tiara. Perhaps she's a princess or a queen of her kind. I also wanted to ensure that the gold aspects of her palette are her main color schemes, whilst the pinks are just her accents. Now at the moment, she doesn't look like a magical girl, just kind of maybe a human with really long hair, which I also really love about her character. But what I'll be doing is creating some wings for her, because as soon as I saw the way she is posed, I thought she must be a very elegant fairy princess or fairy queen. So I wanted to design her wings separately, and that's why it's kind of on the side right now. I will be moving that towards her and copying it so that it's even and symmetrical on the other side. So this is our magical fairy queen / princess, whichever you'd prefer. Next up is the Beach Umbrella palette, which ranges from some turquoise, rose pinks, and lemon yellow. This palette is great in a way that all the colors, not only do they complement each other, they contrast each other. And initially I wanted to do a mermaid for this particular palette, but I thought that that would be a bit too cliche, but I still wanted that mermaid aspect onto this character. So not only is she going to have human-like legs, but she will also have the comfort of a aquatic mammal's tail. Specifically, I'm talking about whales and dolphins because they have flat horizontal tails, whilst other fish like sharks, for example, they have vertical tails. I'm only going on to this point because I want to make a point that she is somewhat part human and she's somewhat inspired by a mermaid. But instead of a trident, she has a parasol or beach umbrella. So perhaps she is like a human mermaid hybrid that got the best of both worlds, and now she works as a magical lifeguard in a magical beach. I also thought that it'd be really cool if a part of her head is shaven off and it kind of looks like fishnets. And of course, as I said earlier, I'll be sticking onto my rule to only use colors within that particular color palette. I'm not using any other colors that is in my Procreate color wheel at all. Looking at her colors, I use the turquoise and lemon yellow as complementary colors, whilst the rose pink is more of the contrast color, which is why you could see it as her bathing suit, because if I were to use the other colors, I think it would blend in a bit too well, because when you try and blend the turquoise and yellow together, it does make that greenish type color. So using that pink really does make her pop out, which would be really good if you are a lifeguard, especially a magical lifeguard. Lastly, we'll be using the color palette Mngo.tea, which has a deep spruce brown color and a variation of mint. Now she's got to be my favorite design because I based her off of a magical chef, and I do love cooking, I really love baking, so I do play a certain favoritism. And for her outfit, I thought that it'd be really cute and really relevant if I were to make it a sort of magical maid outfit. Kind of like what you would see in Japanese magical girl animes. So I don't really watch this, so I have no idea what I'm talking about. But look at Tokyo Mew Mew and Madoka Magic. You could see that a lot of their outfits are kind of really Japanese maid type outfits, but hella yassified. So that's what I was going for with this character's outfit. I really wanted something quite poofy, but not too poofy to the point where she looks like a pumpkin, but enough to show that there are layers under there. And of course, to complement the poofiness on her outfit, I wanted to balance that by adding some poofiness and volume onto her hair. Her hair is actually inspired by Pinkie Pie's mane from My Little Pony. So if you look at her mane, it's quite outgoing, quite alive. I've seen her hair deflate before, so it kind of represents her personality and balloons in a way, and that's what I was expecting for this character as well. In terms of her personality, she would be very bubbly, very outgoing. She would be all out there trying to get people to try out her new recipes and such. And in this piece, we could see her make mint chocolate ice cream. I'm pretty sure you don't make ice cream using a huge stock pot like that, but this is magic. It's a magic pot. But what tickles my funny bones is, even though she's my favorite design compared to the other two, I don't like mint, and I don't like any mint chocolate or mint flavored things. You can like it if you want, but it's just not my cup of tea. And speaking of cup of tea, my favorite kind of tea is actually peppermint tea, so I just contradicted myself. But here is the last design anyways, and I really hope that you guys like her. So that concludes this video. I'd like to thank everyone who's watched this far. I really do appreciate it. But before you go, if you guys have any ideas on what we should name these girls, feel free to post that in the comments below. I'm not the best at names, so if you guys can suggest a few for us to pick from, that would be great, and I'll post that into my next video. But for now, thanks again for watching. Bye!